welcome back to the Halo series. My name is Douglas Brown, CEO at Halo Consulting. Today we are joined by Andy Mowat, CEO at Gated. If you're new to this event, Halo hosts monthly virtual roundtables covering current trends in the HR, tech, and DEI space. Don't forget to check out the Halo mini-series, where we hear from executives taking a deep dive into a multi-part series discussing what is keeping them up at night. If you've enjoyed this content, hit that like and subscribe button and sign up for our monthly Halo newsletter, which summarizes current market trends and recaps past events, and that link can be found in the description. Throughout our session, we will cover fundraising and growth in today's market. Before we kick off the questions, let's get started with you, Andy. Can you share with our audience where you started your career and how it has evolved into starting your own company, Gated?
Yeah, I kind of have two careers. I have the prior to 2007/8 career, where I did investment banking, private equity, running companies and building companies for kind of wealthy families. And then I had the post discovering tech and how to scale tech companies. So I've spent the last 20 years or 15 years, I guess, since 2008 in scaling like SaaS startups. I've done it for three unicorns, Box, Culture Amp, and originally Upwork. And I love kind of that 1 to 100 million range run.
Awesome. And it sounds like you've had a really impactful and rewarding career up to this point, Andy. So appreciate that context. Let's dive into the next question. Who are your customers and why do they love your product at Gated?
Yeah, Gated looks at the world very differently. So we are, unlike most people that are selling a tool to people, we are giving away a tool for free to people that are overwhelmed with email. So our users are people that are CEOs, marketing, rev ops, finance, anyone that gets sold to, like IT, product engineering, all of us that are just screaming like, "Oh my God, not more email." And so we believe very deeply that you shouldn't have to pay to clean up the dog poop that's dumped on your inbox. The person with the dog should have to do it. So in our case, we make all of our money from sender donations. We take 30% of donation, the rest goes to nonprofit. That is what we do. So we take email out of your inbox. From people who don't know you, we send them a nice note saying, "I don't know you. Here's how to reach me." And if they donate, that email gets delivered. If not, they don't bother your inbox. And so our users are, executives that are overwhelmed.
Awesome. And for those executives that are overwhelmed, and I know you mentioned marketing, RevOps, et cetera, how many users do you have on the platform today?
We don't disclose. We're growing like 20 to 30% a month. It's our vision is to give it away to millions of people, but we launched in June of last year. So it's still sub 10,000, but growing fast.
Okay, awesome. Well, appreciate you sharing what you can. Let's move on. How do you balance the need for revenue and growth with the mission-driven nature of your business, and how have the market conditions of today made it more difficult?
Yeah, it's interesting. Definitely the world is not paying for growth as much as they are for profitability. I think our vision is that there is a much more valuable business to be created as you start to really defend people's inboxes, but that takes time. And so we haven't been optimizing for monetization. We optimize for the impact on the user. But the nice thing is we are making money on virtually every one of our users. So we're in a good situation in that front. I'd say it changed how we think about how aggressively we grow with the market. I think you just got to be realistic that there's less money out there. And so, I look back at what I did with a couple of my companies that it did end up becoming unicorns, right? Like there was a lot of money to throw at problems. I don't think that exists today. And I think you've got to be a lot more nimble and more creative.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Andy. And it sounds like the VC and PE world has definitely shifted in terms of where their focus is and really looking for strong growth in ARR. But really great to hear that the impact on the users at Gated today is significant. And it's your tagline on LinkedIn really resonated with me, where you mentioned Gated is noise canceling headphones for your email, which I got a kick of when I read that the other day. So
Yeah.
So last year, cash flow was really flowing from venture capital. Gated closed a $3.5 million seed round early in 2022. How did you know and decide when it was the right time to bring on external investors?
Yeah, so it's actually that 3.5 split into two. It was like 1.5 in April and then 3.5 in December. I'm sorry, and then 1.5 in April, 2 in December. The way I looked at it was this, which is like I built this business for about a year, just both on the side and out of my own pocket before I took money. Um, I wanted to get to product market fit, where we had users that just absolutely loved us and were staying at insane rates. And I wanted to get to some revenue before I took money. At some point, I think it just became where the check I was cutting every month was significant enough that, and then I think for me, it was also you can't half jump in when you take investments. So for me, I evaluated as like, is this where I want to spend the next 10 years of my career? And when that was the case, I went through that same process with my co-founder and we talked about it and we made that commitment. Right. And so that I think is really critical before you take external money. Right. Like I've counseled a lot of like founders and they're like, I don't know, I want to take money. And I'm like, well, are you ready to go full time? And they're like, I haven't really talked to my spouse yet. And I'm like, you should probably have that conversation. And so I think a lot of those, to me, taking money was it's a big trigger for a lot of different things, right? Like, and once you take money, you got to do something with that money. So it's very different than funding it out of your own pocket.
And really appreciate that, Andy. That's some really good insight for our seed stage CEOs on the cusp of raising funds, knowing that the three things that really that you highlighted was one, product market fit. Number two, making some revenue before taking on any external funds, and really, getting to a point where the check that you were cutting each month was pretty significant out of your own pocket. And then number three, the fact that if you're not fully committed, then it's probably not the right time to jump in until you are. So
Yep.
this is a good segue into our next question. What do you look for in an investor, and how has that changed or evolved as Gated has grown and that the market has shifted?
I mean, ideally, your investor deeply understands what you are doing and believes in that vision, and so deeply that they're committed to like understand that. I think we've got a mix, right? Like there's some people that are just money, and there's other people that are like deeply using our product and understand it, and it resonates very powerfully with them. I think our investors are not our target user out of the gate, but we've started to, and so that's where it becomes very interesting, right? Because some investors are like, well, I can't see myself using it. I'm like, I didn't build it for you. And one investor had a really good thing, and it was very mature. They said, listen, if you built this product for VCs, I'm not interested. And I was like, that's much, yeah, I get it. And so I think it's just, I'd say the best investor I have by far is just A, they're a user and they deeply understand it. B, they can bring perspective and insight without saying what to do. And then C, I'd say they listen and they guide and they kind of calibrate their input with where we're at in the process versus just like, here's what I think, and then move on. So hard to be specific without talking about specific investors, but hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good context, Andy. And the 3 points that you just mentioned was number one, deeply using the product. The best investor is a user. Number two, bringing perspective and insight without really saying what to do. And then number three, being a good listener and guide throughout the process. Have you ever considered using an incubator or accelerator program or services from an investor?
I never did. I'd say because I have scaled up 3 companies before, so I've got experience running it at scale. I think I can, if you have a good product, and that I think I can get to the right VCs, and the dilution they take is fairly significant.
Mm-hmm. For those first time CEOs out there that might be considering using an incubator or accelerator program, any advice you could give to them?
No, I mean it definitely opens up a lot of doors for people that are like I think technically savvy, can iterate really fast, and that makes a lot of sense. I think if you're go to market focused, you've got to find the right technical co-founder slash partner in the process.
Great. That's some good context, Andy. Thanks for sharing. I'm curious as how your perspective as an investor influenced the way you position Gated to prospective investors.
It didn't really. I mean, we're doing something that's so different. Like I typically invest in SaaS companies where I deeply understand it. Like Gated is PLG to the extreme. Um, it's definitely like I meet a lot more CEOs that I can talk to because I'm also an investor as well too. But I turned the investor side way down. When I started Gated, I had an early employee say, "Oh, are you focused on Gated?" And I said, "Yes, I'm 100%, 120% focused on Gated. Let me remove that doubt." Right. So I do a lot of advisory to CEOs, but I don't, my money right now I put into Gated. And so that's how I look at it. So, did it help me in any way, shape, and form being an investor? No, just pattern recognition. Like what are good metrics, what are bad metrics, understanding all that stuff. But I knew that whether I was an investor or not.
Yeah, being able to see both sides of those tables probably gave you the ability to see both sides of the table. So really positive. And Andy, as a CEO, how much of your time is spent on product development versus go to market strategy, and how have your priorities evolved as Gated has grown?
I'd say product development I can't do. Technically, I that passed me back a while ago. Um, Go to market strategy, that's my superpower. I'd say product strategy, I still am in on it because we're so early and we're crossing the chasm. For our core product, not as much, but like I feel like you always have to touch that. And I talk to lots of users. Um, I'm a, and so effectively like deeply partnered with our head of product and engineering on like what will the product look like and how will it do that. But over time, I definitely aspire to be less focused on the product side and more like my superpower is the GTM.
Yeah, I like how you refer to the go to market strategy as your superpower. That's pretty great. Um, Moving on, Andy, if there was one piece of advice that you wish you received prior to becoming an entrepreneur, what would that advice have been?
I don't have a specific piece of advice for that. I mean, I think if I look back at the capital markets, the advice I probably would have given myself would have been keep as much powder dry as you can until you see the hockey stick versus hiring right before when you think the hockey stick will come. It'll give you the ability to put more when that hockey stick starts to happen.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. And when you think about the hockey stick itself, typically, when does that happen, and at what point does it make sense to make those external hires?
You know it when you feel it, right? Like it's people are just, I mean, and we see it every day today. It's like people are just showing up that you didn't anticipate. You're turning around and people are using your product you didn't even realize, right? Like it's become to that size. Um, it's somebody described it as there's channel market fit, there's product market fit. It's like users love and don't churn, and then there's channel market fit, right, where you can put the pedal down on some of that. I think we've had product market fit really, really early, and I think we're finishing up and wrapping up like the channel market fit stuff, and like you start to know it and smell it for sure.
We have a couple of last questions here for you, Andy. When we think of Gated 5 years, 10 years, and beyond, what's the long-term vision for yourself and your company?
Yeah, everyone, we're giving this to everybody, right? Like you should control access to your own attention. You should be able to determine how much your attention costs, and you should be able to determine where the money for that goes. Now, we very rarely get asked, "Can I get the money?" And most people like they really care, like, "Are you saving my attention?" So I think if you look at it this way and you say, "Listen, most people will have a company like Gated defending their attention for them." Um, it changes the way people sell. Instead of sending 100 emails and getting two replies, you could send 10 and get 5 replies. There's a little bit of cost in there, but the world's better off. And it's about bringing personal connections back to things and making it easier for people to connect. It's interesting. People see Gated and they're like, it's going to make it harder to connect. And no, the reality is it makes it easier to connect by killing all the noise. So that's what we're after. We think beyond email as well too. And so, in essence, just making it easier to connect and find those unique connections that change the course of your life.
As we conclude, who should reach out to you and why, and what's the best way to connect with you and get in touch for our audience?
If you feel the pain of email, sign up, gated.com. It's free. If you really geek out on what we're doing, like send me an email, andy@gated.com. And if you donate, I guarantee I will read and reply to your email.
Well said. Thanks again for your time, Andy. Wishing you and the Gated team a successful 2023.
Thanks so much, Doug.